Tell me what you see when you look at me. Do you see another brother lost in these streets looking for his soul?
Trying to find my soul.
Or do you see another brother searching for lost souls in these streets? A street soldier.
Street soldier.
Here to help you get that chip off your shoulder, warm your colder days and sober your drunken ways, and find a way to help you get over these hurdles placed in our path. And this is not meant to amuse you. This is for all those who have questions but are afraid to ask.
I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. No. When times get hard, you lose your way. Open your mind and hear what I say.
This is a message for the hard and the soft. To those who tune in weekly and to those who keep an eye out for 8 p.m. on Sundays and turn their radios off. The truth hurts. The cloth has been pulled. We're walking around half dead. Use this show as your IV. Alive and free is a new movement. We've achieved self-destruction. A street soldier promotes self-improvement.
Streets couldn't be no colder, so I gotta be a soldier. It shouldn't be this hard for me. Even when it seems so hopeless, I gotta keep my focus. I'm glad to be alive and free, yeah. Streets couldn't be no colder, so I gotta be a soldier. It shouldn't be this hard for me. Even when it seems so hopeless, I gotta keep my focus. I'm glad to be alive and free, yeah.
Good evening, and Happy New Year. We are welcoming you back. It is 2025, and we are still here. We're welcoming you back to Street Soldiers once again, and your host this evening is delighted you are with us again. Your host, Dr. Joseph E. Marshall Jr.
Good evening, Street Soldiers. It is 2025. Just wrapping my mind around that is like pause for the cause, as they used to say back in the day. Wow, 2025. Hope everybody's had a happy new year so far. And if you haven't, let's make it happy, because that's the only way it should be. We're ready to go once again. Had a nice break. Nice break. I don't know if we've had a break like this ever.
Yeah.
Nice, accent, recharge, but ready to go. Street Soldiers. One more time. Going to give you the best that we got all year long. You know that. Got to say good evening to Lady E. Good evening to Ann. What's up, Film on Mike? What's up, Soul? And yeah, let's jump into the year 2025. Right. Where do I want to begin? Anybody got any resolutions they want to get off their chest? No resolution. I don't think nobody does resolutions anyway. How about commitments? Like, I'm gonna try and do something.
Can I stop getting older? Is that one of the resolutions I can do? Is that allowed?
You could try.
Okay.
I'm actually gonna try and slow time down this year.
There you go.
I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm used to moving in fast motion. I'm like, I'm moving. I'm going down, slowing, slow motion. And, I know that they always say when you go, the time speeds up. So I'm trying to
Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
Let me know what you find out.
But you know what? It's all in your mind. When your movements are measured, then it seems like, I'm going to use all 24 hours of the day. I already decided that, because how many days I got left? That saying, I would say tomorrow's promise of no one. At some point, you'd be like, damn, it really ain't.
Yeah. Well, it was always true. It's just you start seeing it. That's all.
No, you get over there. Yeah. Lady, how you doing? Everything good with you?
Everything is wonderful. This is the first Sunday of the first quarter of another century.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're right.
And I am still here. Anybody who knows me just knows where I'm going next, but I won't. That's in my heart. But I'm still here. I don't have a resolution. I don't do resolutions because those things end up getting broken. But I tell you what, Dr. Marshall said, my pace has changed. and some of it's changed It's not my choice. I can't help it. It's just changed all by itself, and I'm just keeping up with the change. But I will be staying in my lane,
Yeah.
not crossing over into anybody else's, staying focused on where I'm headed so I don't get off track in any way. So I'm talking about being kind, loving, clear, on top of things to the best of my ability, knowing from where my help and strength comes from, and staying in that lane. That's where I'm going to be. Period with the T.
Lady E has declared. We know where she is. We know where she is. All right, let's get into this news. Lot of stuff has happened. Too much to recount. Uh, uh First of all, former President Jimmy Carter, let's give him his due. Passed away during the while we're away.
Made it to 100 years old.
100 years old. That's
Mhm.
that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool.
And I have a soror that made it to 105.
Oh,
All
wow.
right.
She's still here.
Happy
All
birthday
right.
to her.
Happy
That's
birthday.
right.
Praise the Lord.
Willard Harris. Yeah, gonna shout her out.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Doc, Jimmy Carter was the first president I could remember being
Mm.
born in the 70s. He was the president, so I'm not going to, he did what presidents do. So we're not going to get into that. But I just, after he was president, it was really when I heard him speak more because I was younger at the time. And I remember he seemed so different than the other guy who came after him, Ronald Reagan.
He was.
And in time, I really enjoyed listening to Jimmy Carter. I learned more about him as he got older. I think he got a Nobel Peace Prize in early 2000 or something. I heard a couple of his speeches. I went back and researched him. And again, I'm not, he was a president of the United States. So I'm not sitting here and say he did what presidents do. But I did enjoy learning about him and just found him, especially later in his life, to be a real, very honorable man.
Yeah, a lot of his legacy is after this president. A lot of his legacy is attributed to that. Mike, while we're gone, your favorite baseball player passed away.
Oh man, that was tough.
Oh,
Ricky Henderson.
he's not my favorite, but
Oh, I thought you said he was. I'm sorry.
Barry Bonds my
Okay,
favorite.
okay, but Ricky's up.
I think he's up there though.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That was tough to. I was saying Ricky was 65, I think.
65.
He was young.
He was young, but Ricky, I almost want to do a show on Ricky Henderson.
I would love that. I mean, in Oakland,
Man, get some
forever
folks
the
to
man.
call in and talk about Ricky and find some of his people because he's Oakland. Ricky's Oakland to the T. I mean, that's he wasn't born here, but he's Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson, actually, he lost a lot of.
Hey Doc, I remember the day he broke that stolen base record
and pulled the base out of
Yep.
third base out of it and held it up and said,
Yep.
"I'm the greatest."
Yep. And he was. Yes, sir.
Ricky Henderson, you talking about excitement, Mr. Excitement. We lost a lot of folks in 2024. John Amos, Quincy Jones, James Earl Jones, Sheila Jackson, Carl Weathers, Lou Gossett,
The great Nikki Giovanni.
Nikki Giovanni. Oh man,
That one hit me hard just last
Nikki
month.
Giovanni. Yeah, spoken word Nikki. Okay, a few more things. Let's see what we got here. I made a few notes. Let's see. There's some new laws that came out that will go into effect in 2025. I'm not going to go through those tonight, maybe next week, because some of them are pretty important. I mean, they're all important. You got to know the new laws, especially if you live in the state. So there's a bunch of them. A couple of really bad incidents. What happened in New Orleans. A gentleman killed 10 people. What one's calling a terrorist attack. Maybe it's 15. It was 10 when I saw, man, be up to 15. I'm sorry. I want to be correct. Apparently he acted alone. He was an Army vet who had served in Afghanistan, and he claimed the Islamic State. And then a man rented a Cybertruck and committed suicide in Las Vegas.
Possibly another military vet.
He was a Green Beret. He was a Green Beret. Not exactly the holiday stores, but violence doesn't stop on the holidays. We know that. And here's a couple of folks that we know Well, I think I've actually met both of them. I can't say I know them well, but who were awarded presidential medals of freedom.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and I guess outgoing President Biden's last chance to do. I think he awarded
Should have gave you one, Doc, but that's another story.
uh, you nice, bro. But Magic Johnson and Denzel Washington were among two of the, I think it was 18 recipients. Hillary Clinton got one also. Yeah, and they showed Magic getting his, and the joke was when he put it down, he had to bend down to put it around him because he's 6'9". Yeah, and I ain't that tall. And then it was I saw a clip of Denzel getting his and his face, just an amazing, obviously, thing, presidential medal.
Dr. Marshall,
Yes.
if I could just back up to, we have a list of those who are no longer with us.
Mhm.
We lost in 2024, and those are well-known people who have made a huge impact on not just the community, but on the world. But then there are others
Yes.
who are no longer with us that may not necessarily be known, let alone well known, but who were loved and cared for,
Yes.
cared about, and will be greatly missed. And I'd like to lift them up as well.
I think-
Acknowledge the names that we know, but would not say because they're not in the lights, but they are.
Very well said.
And I just want to acknowledge all of those who are no longer with us.
Yes.
Thank you, lady.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's end the news segment by giving Simone Biles her due.
I knew you wasn't gonna leave that out.
Oh man, Simone.
That's your girl.
Yeah, love Simone, man.
That's many of us as girl, okay?
That's your girl.
I'm a fan. That's his girl.
That's Captain America. That's what I call her. Yeah.
Simone Biles was named Sports Illustrated at 2024 Sports Person of the Year. And she says, honestly, it's such a huge honor. I know some of the greats that have won it in prior years. So just to keep gymnastics on the map is really exciting. And congratulations. Well, yeah, she's 27 now. It seems like, it's like
She's still so young.
I know. Look, she got to be. She can't. Look, as far as I'm concerned, she can compete forever. But this body can't do that. But congratulations, Simone. Congratulations, Simone. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Greatest smile in the world, right? Greatest smile in the world. All right.
She's pretty good at gymnastics too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a doll, no doubt.
All right, a wonderful movie during the holidays came out. A wonderful, wonderful movie during the holidays came out. That's very close to the Street Soldiers family. And that is the 6888. I hope you've seen it because I want some reactions. I want some reactions tonight too. The 6888 film. Tyler Perry produced the movie. Starring Kerry Washington. We're all here familiar with the story, but to see that story brought to the big screen was just absolutely amazing. It began, I guess, in a few selected theaters. I happened to see it in the theater before it's on Netflix now. I think currently, I haven't looked lately, it's number 2 on Netflix. And here's the thing, it's a true story. It's a true story. And everybody that, there's been a lot of postings about it. Everybody I've talked to was like, wow. Followed by, I had no idea. And I don't, how can I say this? I don't want to say you're not supposed to know. It's forgotten. I guess nobody thought it was a big deal. That's the only way I can put it. Nobody thought it was a big deal until all these years later, this World War II story has come to light. And now it is finally getting the accolades, the justice, all of that it is due. If you've seen the movie, please give us a call and give us your reactions. Please give us a call, 877-955-1061. It went away, and no, it went away. That page, 877-955-1061. I had a page on LinkedIn that had all kind of comments on it. I want to, but let's go. I know some people said they were calling who have seen the film. 877-955-1061. But just in house. Well, hopefully the call start rolling in. Just your thoughts about. I mean, obviously we knew the story, but to see it brought to the big screen, Soul and Lady E, why don't you?
How cool was it to turn on Netflix and then see your family's history up there on Netflix? I just thought that was amazing. I thought of you, I thought of Malcolm, and I was like, Malcolm, I'm seeing the story of your grandma right now.
And I got my daughter, and we sat down, just me and her, and we watched it together.
Oh,
And at the beginning of the movie, if I tell Ida I want you to watch something, she's into it. Look, by the end of the movie, she totally got it. And we sat there and tears came down my face. And I could just see the pride in her face, knowing that's her, literally. That is her. That was her. That's her grandmother, her great grandmother. It was just such a special feeling.
And that's the punchline in the movie, which let's get everybody people straight. There were 855 members of the six AAA, and what they accomplished was showed in the movie. I just happened to be related to one of them, which obviously made it very special to me and all the Marshall family. But we got some calls. Let's go. Here we go. Hi, you're on Street Soldiers. Did you see the film 6888? And what did you think? Who's calling?
My name is Arthur.
Arthur, how are you? Yeah, how you doing?
All right. Yeah, I'd like to say that. What was the question again?
Did you see the film? You can only talk about it if you've seen the movie. 6888.
Which one was the movie?
Oh, you didn't see the movie. 6888. It was on Netflix. Okay.
Okay.
Right. You can still watch it though.
It's on Netflix. Watch it. Watch it. It'll be something you don't know. All right. So we got the 877-955-1061. Are you saying keep talking? Oh, caller. Okay, caller, you're on. Go ahead. Hello.
Hey.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
This is Mark Benton. Good evening, everyone.
How you
Thank
doing,
you for
Mark?
taking my call.
Thanks, man. You got it. Your thoughts about that film?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I won't take up too much because I have a lot of feelings about it, and I'm just proud to have seen it. My dad is a Korean War and Vietnam veteran, and you know what? He has never heard of it. And I'm an Army veteran in the 80s, and I've never heard of it. And I'm an HBCU graduate. My wife is a third-generation HBCU graduate, both from Howard. Never heard of it. My children are fourth-generation HBCU graduates. Never heard of it. And I'm just so glad they're making of this movie to clarify things that our ladies will not just go over there to be a concubine, and to be something of significance. So thank you for doing this. Thank you so very much. I would definitely share this with my continued peers as my relationship with the Army, as a civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army. And I think it is something worth being told forevermore. And so thank you for doing this.
Mark,
and,
I think it's significant that your service career, you knew nothing about it. And you think if anybody might know about it, it'd be the folks in the service. So that's even more amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it just takes me by surprise. And I just want to say thank you so much. It means a lot. My kids are both serving now. One's in the reserve, one is active, and my daughter is a major in the military.
Yeah, like
and
Mary
so
Adams.
both exactly. I just say my daughter, both of them are majors. I just happen to say my daughter because she's a female, and she's in the Army nursing corps, so she's a nursing officer. So this is very significant to me. And we sat her down and we all watched it together as a family. And
What were
have
your
to tell you,
reactions during the film? I mean, you knew the story because you knew me, you know my family.
Right.
But watching it come to life, it was still amazing to me, and I knew what was going to happen.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, for me, it was glad. I'm glad at being told. Number one. Number two, it was worse than what was shown.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are. That.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had the pleasure of meeting some of the Tuskegee Airmen, and you know these kind of movies, it's always worse than what's shown. They have to scale it down when they put it on the movie.
Yeah.
So what you saw, what we saw on the movie, it was worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
In reality.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just glad the story was being told. And in all transparency, Joe, I have to tell you, I teared up at the end.
Oh, you teared up.
I had to go grab some tissue, man. I was trying to be all strong in front of my wife and daughter.
Can't do that, bro. No. Men, brothers, don't do that. Okay, we're not trying to dam up no arteries. Okay, let it go when it's time.
If you don't tear up on that movie, hey, I'm more worried if you don't tear up.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mark.
Exactly.
Thank you, man.
So
Thank you so
absolutely,
much, man.
we had a great time, and thank you for all you do.
Pass the
Dr.
word. I'm looking for some Oscar buzz on this thing. Okay.
Yes, sir.
It was that good.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for calling. All right. 877-955-1061. Hi. Woo. Turn the radio down and go ahead. And if you've seen the movie, please tell us your reaction to it. 68888.
Yeah, I saw 6888, and it was very powerful. In fact, I thought about when I wanted to go into the military right out of high school, but I didn't. I went to college instead, and I took the corporate route. And so I've worked in tech for nearly 30 years, and it made me tear up so bad because it's almost like I felt my ancestors, right, who had served in the military, and it also resonated with me because I'm like, this is actually my experience, literally, right now in corporate America, right? And so it's like 30 years later, we're still going through the same thing, right? Or 30 years from high school, and all of the time that they were, in it. So hundreds of years, I guess you would say, we're still experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, the forces that aligned against them, a lot of that's still around, and people don't like to acknowledge that, don't want to say that, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and I'm sure you could identify as a woman just being in that. You can't do it. You can't do it thing. You just can't do it. I don't know why they're asking you in the first place if you can't do it. It's just crazy.
It's unfortunate because so much of Derek Cox's character, right, in the movie, just showcase, like I said, real life today. This is 2025, like in the workplace today. Walk into a room and be the most senior person there, and have some average person treat you like they're better than you,
right?
When you don't have the education, you don't have the experience, you don't even have the knowledge, right, to even do the job, but you want to disrespect me and put
you have the audacity.
Feel like, the caucasity, if you will, right? Disrespect me because of my skin color alone, right?
Yeah, that's why, Major Charity Adams' character was it was positive, it was a revelation. I mean, she's like, no, I ain't having it. No. Well, no, I mean, if women just watched her, right, and the way she handled, and she's in a military command thing, chain of command thing, where she's taking orders, but at some point she's like, no.
So,
I know who I am. I know what I'm doing.
Right. I want to say one more thing, and I'll let you get to someone else's perspective. That part of it initially it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, because I know that she was making them feel like, hey, listen, no one's going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You're going to have to work just as hard. And I get it. But I felt like in all of that, like there could have been some messaging, and I get the story is the story, right? To say, hey, listen, I know you guys are thinking this is hard, but look, this is what we're going to do. I got your back. We're here. And it's like, I still feel that even today, again, if I were to look at the kind of parallels in the corporate workplace and the tech workplace, that many women, many people are still carrying this. I had to work hard. I had to forge my way. So you're going to have to do it too, instead of showing that empathy, instead of saying, hey, listen, I see you.
Right.
You're not crazy. I know that these things exist, but I want to make sure that you're prepared and you know what's what. Yeah. That's the only thing that I have to say about that. So.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching and love it. All right. So proud of all of them. All 855 women of the 6888. All right. You're on next. Did you see the film of 6888 and what did you think? Turn your radio down. Go ahead. All right. Go right ahead. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I just need the radio down. Go ahead. Your thoughts.
Okay. No, we got you on on the TV in the living room. So I
TV down.
Miss Estelle, Lady Estelle, you're gorgeous, lady. Let me just tell you, it's been a long
Is this J-Mo? Bless your
Come
heart.
on, you know that voice.
Did you see Malcolm?
I haven't seen Malcolm, just YouTube. Just YouTube.
Man,
I can't go back in the living room.
man. Oh, man.
But Donna called me and told me, she couldn't call in, so they told me to call in. So I'm here to speak about, this great program you got, brother.
Hey, now look, I'm gonna do this. This is a teaser because we only have, the first hour tonight to do this. We gotta move to something else. But I'm gonna do a fuller show when I'm gonna have you come on and some of the families come on and explain, the actual people that were involved, the families that were involved, and especially you and your role, because you had a significant part in the buildup, to, I'm not gonna say the film got made because of you, but there was a cause and effect. And you were a big part of that with the work you did prior to the film being made. But just speaking on behalf of our family, and all families, man, the pride that we know about, our mom and all those other moms that were over there, to see it on the big screen was like, like I said, when I saw mom's name at the end, right, I'm in the theater. Say, my mama was one of them. You know what I'm saying? Man, it's just something else, man. And she never really talked about it, man. At least to me. Now you got closer and you learned more of the story, but she never talked about it. Yeah, I was over in Europe, and I served. And go ahead, lady.
She talked about it to me.
Oh, okay.
and I'm just biting my tongue, waiting to share that moment I had with, that moment I had when she was talking about it. But J-Mo, as far as I'm concerned, you're the reason. You are the reason that this light has come on.
Man, yes, we're gonna go further into that, but I got folks that aren't from the families that got to see what we have known for a long time. That just like in the comments that I've heard of, man, look, but I gotta thank you, bro. I gotta thank you, man. You know that, man. I love you, man. I might do a show just on my brother, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. I wait to do the program with you. And Mark Benson texted me.
Yeah, Mark was just on earlier. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, man, I'm glad you had this program on, and if I can contribute next time, please call me.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get the full story with the families. All
right.
All right,
okay.
Man. Okay, thank you, man.
Take care.
877, you got it.
Hi, sweetie.
877-955-1061. If you saw the film, please call and tell us what you thought. Who's on? Go right ahead. Hello. Hello, you are there. Go right ahead.
Hi, Dr. Joe. This is your friend Dennis.
What's up, Dennis? Dennis.
Well, first of all, Happy New Year to all of you guys.
Yep. Thank you, man.
We're in a brave new world this year now.
We sure are.
And anyhow, I saw the movie with my wife, and then our daughter Nora saw the end of it with us. And it was, first of all, I knew about it because you told me about it. I was overwhelmed by that great history. I mean, you come from great stock. That's one thing that's obvious. The thing about the movie is, I can't believe how patriotic those women were, and what they went through and what they did for a country that didn't treat them right.
Yeah.
That's what struck me about the whole thing, is how they kept their heads up, how they did whatever they could, whatever was right, whatever they could for their country, and yet their country, our country, didn't do them right.
Yes.
And it is such a great thing that story is being told now, and I'm just so sad that it wasn't told 50 years ago.
There's the documentary which came out before that, and if anybody really wants to know more, the 688 documentary is just unbelievable. But there's a line when, I don't know which one of the women said, I don't think it was Major Charity Adams, one of the other women, who said, we loved our country, but they didn't always love us back, and that's true. That's true, because you saw how they were treated. You saw how they were doubted. And then they had to come home to segregation. It didn't matter what they did. And the fact that their story is forgotten, is another one of those hidden figure films, hidden figure stories that nobody just knows about. And of course, it makes you wonder how many others. One of the things I always say during Black History Month, and you don't know what you don't know. You don't know. And this little nugget was unearthed and brought to the big screen. Now I love the way you put that. That's exactly what they did. They served a country that did not care about them. And it comes through loud and clear in the film from and it took Eleanor Roosevelt and Mary McLeod Bethune to say, look, we got a problem, we got an issue, and these women can do it. And the Army said they can't. And they said, we can. And the film, the rest is literally history. I'm glad you liked it, man. I'm glad you saw it. I'm glad.
Well, I not only liked it, the fact that they made the lives of that many people better. I mean, 17 million pieces of mail that they got out in 90 days. It is astounding. And what that meant to all those people serving, and the PTSD that some of those people would have lived through if they didn't get those that mail and that correspondence back home. Man, they did so much more than an individual could have. That was just great.
Somebody called me, a very good friend, I'm gonna just say, will call me and said, I just want to ask you, how much of that was Hollywood? I said, well, none of it Hollywood. Now, it was Lena's story, and so maybe the thing about her and the Jewish boyfriend, I don't know about that. It's her story. But none of that other stuff was Hollywood. All that stuff actually happened to those women, and what they did was actual and factual. Thank Dennis, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, brother. I'll talk to you soon, man. All right, you're on Street Soldiers. Did you see the film 6888? And what did you think?
Hey, Dr. Joe, my call got dropped. I thought you got tired of listening to me.
Oh, no, we had another call. That's why. We had another
That's great.
call.
Okay, go to them. They'll have something more insightful to say.
Oh,
sure.
No, what you said was wonderful. Thanks, man. I'll see you. 877-955-1061. 877-951-1061. We got some comments from
I just think there was a lot of heart that went into the storytelling too. This wasn't just, Tyler Perry trying to, gain some more fame. this was really telling the history of people who mattered, and um and then the woman, oh, he like she was, sick because they're like, how old are they? Like 100 or something.
Oh, Lena, yeah, right. She was,
Rushed and gave her the like quick chopped up version so she could see the film before she passed. And I just thought that was beautiful. That spoke to um the how and the why. We need to tell the story, share the story. Yeah, I thought that was beautiful of him.
And Doc, I did read that, this, just so you know, the story about her and what was the boy she fell in love with, Lena fell in love with. What was his name? Anybody remember?
I don't remember his name. No.
Abram, I think.
Abram.
That was based on truth. Now.
Oh, okay. All
at
right.
least according to what I read, that
Yeah.
they might have embellished. I mean, that's what movies do, but the core was based on truth.
So that's nice to hear, because it was
And
her story.
my other comment, listening to that caller describing, not to take, I can't take anything away from the women that this movie is focused on, but when he described, wow, seeing those women and they did this for their country and their country didn't love them. I was like, man, that's part of the story of being Black in America for all of us.
The story of
that's all of us.
That's all of us.
Yeah.
Got that right.
Mm-hmm.
You got that right. You got that right. 877-955-1061. If you want to comment on the film, 688. And I lost my page again. Every time I do it, I lose it. I had all these comments, some of these comments from LinkedIn. I can't find them. 877.
Uh-oh.
That's all right. Lady E, you want to fill in while I'm looking for these, while we're waiting for calls? 877-955-1061.
I have the pleasure of being in the presence of the Marshall family one year in particular. And after all of the festivities, I found myself sitting in front of Miss Odessa Marshall. That wasn't the last name that role.
Odessa Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah, Odessa Taylor is the one that's rolled through, but it wasn't, it was Odessa Marshall. And we were just chatting. We were just talking, and she talked about going to the Army, joining the Army because she was a WAC. She's a Women's Army Corps. And she was a proud WAC. She was talking about the times that she would go and visit with some of the women. She would travel and they would hang out. But then she told me about when she joined the Army. And she said she was just a little girl, 19, 20 years old. And she wanted to serve her country. And so she had never really traveled before, but she signed up to go. And then it was just the most nonchalant story, just telling about how they ended up overseas and, and working with mail. And, it was we were just sitting there just chatting. I was like, yes, ma'am. Wow. You were in a submarine? Okay. But I didn't really, how I was just listening. And then I discovered that she was with this, and I didn't know to even ask anymore. But I was just listening to her talking just in just her sweet little nonchalant way of, it was just an amazing experience. And she was really glad she did it. It was hard. She said it was hard, but she was really glad she did it. And that was it. So when the movie started, and I didn't get to see it in the big screen, I got to see it on Netflix. But I tell you what, when that movie got started, I couldn't watch it. I had to cry because I could just see, and the tears are still right here. I could see myself sitting in front of Miss Marshall as she was talking to me about this experience that I didn't realize was this story. And oh my goodness, I just cried for a minute because I was in the presence of one of the 688, hearing pieces of this story about her life. and her journey as a little girl who loved her country and what she, not all of it, but just enough to be just like, wow, really? And there were so many times that I cried through that movie because once again, I could just see her, the two of us sitting in that little room. It was back in her bedroom, just telling me that story. And so I was just touched and taken and honored and, oh my goodness, grateful that that story is now known to so many, known and treasured. The strength, the power, the courage, all that they went through, and the determination, knowing, already knowing that they were loving a country that did not love them back, would probably not. And then when they all stopped and applauded the major who took a stand, oh my goodness, just looking at the women march, I said, Miss Marshall is in that. Those little girls, those young girls, 19, 20, 21, dealing with rats and dirt and cold for the soldiers. Oh my goodness. I know one of them because I spoke to one of them personally. So that's so.
That's more than 2 cents. That's
Sorry.
lady.
It's always more. Hey, ain't nothing I got worth 2 cents.
We'll take $1, Lady E. That's all right.
Let me just say, it's always worth more than 2 cents. Okay.
We got a call. All right. We got a call. Point to something. We got a call. Hey, you're on Street Soldiers. Did you see the film 6888 and your thoughts?
Dr. Marshall?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Greg Brooks.
Hey, Greg, how are you, man? How you doing, man? What'd you think? What'd you think of that movie?
I loved it. Actually, I had a personal watch party. I got on Netflix. I ordered a pizza. I had a little libation with some little juice, and I sat down. And I watched it, and from the very very beginning, from the opening scene credits, it definitely caught my attention because what stood out to me the most was mostly women, especially black women, women of color. They've done so much. Movie Hidden Figures, civil rights, science. So many things that black men have done, and they haven't always gotten the credit for it. It was good to see the women of the 888 Audience 55 members give recognition for what they've done. And they were all so young, and this was many years ago. And the main thing too, to your mom the ball, like we have a giant among us that they know that was there too. But it was really it was very enlightening and very also informative. A more part of our Black history was being revealed that may not be known, but now it's coming out. It was really good, really good. Actually, I forced myself to watch to the very, very end, but I'll be honest, I had some emotions too. And then when they started clapping for them, they honored them, and they felt they got some love for what they did. But it was very good, it was excellent, very good, very good.
Greg, it's just a phenomenal story, but it's American history. See, that's the thing. Black history is American history. This is American history, and it's just sad. Here it is in 2025 now that you finding this out, and even the people in the military didn't know. That strikes me even more. You heard the gentleman earlier who said, "I'm military. I didn't know nothing about this." So it makes you wonder, what else don't we know? What else don't we know? What else don't we know? So I'm talking about we don't need to have Black History Month and all that. No, we do. We do. Because there's stuff you still don't know. And, the conditions that spawn this made it even, these women, you saw it. You saw it. Got to give Tyler a lot of love for putting it out there and showing it to the world. Because it wouldn't happen any other way. And I just urge everybody to see it. And I think personally, that this movie has legs. I hope it gets some, people are saying it should get an Academy Award, and Kerry Washington was great, but they were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, and those medals have not yet been minted, and they still have to be presented. So, we're gonna be revisiting this for a minute, at least up until the sad thing is all the women are now gone,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that's the sad
And
thing.
Doc, who's gonna present the medal?
Don't do that.
Oh,
No.
God.
I know. But I already told my brother,
but
if he's doing it, I ain't nothing to do it. I'm gonna let him do it. I don't know, but he may not even acknowledge it. You know what I mean. But Greg, thank you, man.
It definitely deserves an award. But the AAA, it showed what they did while they were there. But we also have to keep in mind,
Yeah.
there's probably additional things that they did do too that may not be known as well.
Yeah.
Like you say, you don't know, but they probably did more. They probably did more than just a male too.
Well, there's
You may not
all
know.
these stories of that are unearthed. And this is why Black History Month is so important. And people still don't know, and that's where we bring to light, not only with the young people we were with, but right here on the radio. So thank you, Greg. Thanks, man. Thanks for calling. I really appreciate it. 877-955-1061-1061. A few comments. If you have seen the film, The 6888, give us a call and tell us what you think. If you haven't, it's on Netflix right now. You ain't even got to buy a ticket.
Right.
You ain't got to buy a ticket. And the show's over. You can watch it. Okay. Yeah. Mike ain't seen that. No, so I got to tell Mike to go see it.
I was gonna see it. They didn't have it in theater.
All right. Here's a comment. This is a typical comment. This is a phenomenal movie. Tyler Perry did an outstanding job. He and Kerry Washington should receive awards for this body of work. It was motivating, captivating, and rooted in our rich history. I pray we hear more stories like this. I watched this video New Year's Eve, and I was so proud of them, and I felt that I was cheated out of this story. You see, as a Black woman in America, we have had to do so much to survive in this country. The rude, disrespect, lies we are told, the discrimination that is the foundation of this country, the evil, and so much more horrible behavior. This woman went on and on about how she felt about it. Let me see. Excellent entertainment and history lesson all in one. We will be riveted in your seat. Definitely Oscar worthy. This movie brought tears. Don't stop. These are some of the things. Wow, I watched this movie. I watched this yesterday and could not have imagined this would trigger me. My grandfather, who was from Senegal, had to flee France during World War II to escape the Nazi prison horrors. My grandmother very likely waited and waited for news to come that he was okay, but he eventually had to move on with her life. And in this case, what they did was they got the mail to the people, and the whole thing was no mail, no morale. So seeing them do that, tell me when we got one. We got one, just let me know. Okay. All right. We got to wrap up and go to 1 minute. All right. Let me go with one more. I watched the movie yesterday. 855 Black women played such an important role in the war, and the world is just not hearing about it. What a shame that such a piece of history was secretly or willfully hidden. Again, I see a pattern here similar to Hidden Figures, which is a great film about the those three women, and actually that whole unit that worked there, where certain aspects of history involving Black women are untold, and I bet there are also more untold stories. All right. Can I do one more? Then we out? Huh? You gotta go. One more. An outstanding movie revealing a historic national honor of leadership and perseverance by Black women soldiers serving in the U.S. Army as a team during the tumultuous period of war. Were uplifting U.S. Army soldiers on the front line with developing a process, protocols, and mail delivery system, all pivotal to assist in maintaining and improving the morale of U.S. soldiers. Salute all of you. Thank you, Tyler. We're going to do this more in depth, maybe during Women's History Month, maybe during Black History Month. But go see the movie on Netflix, 6888. Want to salute all 855 of them. My mom happened to be one. All right, second hour coming up, a whole different topic. We're going to talk to, a woman who wrote a book called Just Action, How to Challenge Segregation Enacted Under the Color of Law. Switch over to YouTube. Going to bring her in. Got it? You tell them where to do it.
Visit us at YouTube at Stay Alive and Free. And if you want some more, you can always visit us at stayaliveandfree.org.
Hour number two, Alive and Free, Street Soldiers Radio. Once again, Happy New Year. Had a wonderful wonderful kickoff to our first hour, having folks give their reactions to Tyler Perry's new film, The 6888, the story of the 855 Central Battalion Unit who did a miracle with the male in World War II, an all black female unit. Just a great film, great story. And I'm proud to say my mother was one of the 6888. This hour, and we move on to speaking to the author of Just Action. I got a book right here, in case you know, right here. Leah Rothstein and Richard Rothstein, primarily Leah, and Just Action is how to challenge segregation enacted under the color of law. Now, let me tell the audience, we're not going to be able to solve all these problems tonight, okay?
Try.
We're going to delve into what the book is about, the whole premise here, and Leah is going to help us do that. It's a follow-up to her, and Leah, I didn't know until I saw the two names, and read the preface. Your father's book, The Color of Law, which is an amazing book, and I must confess, I got to confess right off the top, Leah, these books are hard to read. They are law books. They are so, there's so much in there. So forgive me. I'm going to lean heavily on you with both the premise of both books, and I know the general subject matter. There were things written into law that promoted segregation and did not allow people of color, particularly Black people, to move forward. All right, period. You want to say something, Sol, before I jump in? And
before Leah gets started, hi Leah, by the way.
Hi.
Can't hear you.
How you doing? Thanks for joining us tonight. I just want to tell you.
I can't hear him though.
You can't hear me, Doc?
I can't hear him.
Okay, let me get mine.
That means I won't be able to hear Leah.
I can hear you.
Hang on. We gotta go get our
I can hear everybody.
Hang on. Get it right.
So
Leah, I'll just tell
Leah,
you.
while that's coming on, I won't have dead air time. I'm just gonna read some author's notes from your book. Okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It says, I'm gonna go straight to, in 2017, I published The Color of Law. This is your father. It's a work of history. It sells to demolish the myth of de facto segregation, the broadly shared notion that our neighborhoods' racial inequality resulted from private business discrimination, whites and blacks freely choosing to live with others of the same race. The evidence I cited told a dramatically different story, and this is the line that you got to get, that federal, state, and local governments enacted racially explicit policies in the 20th century to ensure that blacks and whites could not reside near each other. The policies were so potent that they continue to influence today, 2025, today's patterns of segregation and inequality. Okay. Many readers of that book and many who attended my talks about this history asked, what can we do about it now? Right? And then he says, I lack the experience to come up with those answers. So I knew one who had the necessary skills and persuaded my daughter.
That's me.
I got you now to follow up the book with Just Action and how to do that. And I believe your book is all about that. And again, I started it, but I ain't finished it. So you're gonna have to guide us all the way through this. I love it. Thank you for being here. Can she introduce herself, Sol, before you jump in, or you want to jump in first?
Go ahead, Leah. You've been waiting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. I think that was a great introduction. I teamed up with my dad to write Just Action. Prior to that, I have been working in housing policy and racial justice efforts. I live in the Bay Area, but have been working, throughout California and in local government with community organizations. And teaming up with my dad to write this sequel was a great opportunity. And I understand that the books are dense, and I thought you were going to say they're just heavy. The history is really heavy to read, to hear about how explicit the government was in ensuring that communities were created on a segregated basis and that that segregation was maintained. I hope that our follow-up book, Just Action, is slightly more hopeful because we give a lot of stories of communities around the country that are challenging segregation and having some success. So that's what we hope to offer in Just Action to show that it's not impossible to do something about this today. Not only is it not impossible, but we have an obligation, a moral responsibility to take this on in our communities.
Cole?
Yeah, Leah, I wanted to just tell you how I first became aware of your father's book. The first one in the series was actually before it was released. He came to my hometown, Richmond, California, and gave a talk just maybe a few months before the book had come out. And I remember because I noticed your father because I had never seen him around. You know, I'm at community events in Richmond all the time, and he was the featured guy. I was like, who's this guy? This little old guy, you know, what is he going to say?
Right.
And Doc, let me tell you, that brother got up there. We use the term truth tellers. Well, he was throwing just bombs of truth were coming out that man's mouth. And I was like, what in the John Brown did I just, who is this man? And so then I got, you know, everything he said, all our minds were blown, particularly because Richmond is a city that he talks about in the book early on. So it's not just like this far out there history. It was, oh, wait, we know these neighborhoods and the Bay Area, you know, we live here. But I was like, this is going to be another one of those great books, incredible information. I'm going to be one of like 20 people who's ever read it. But no, that book got out and all across the country. And I mean, I was so happy to see that it had the reaction that people reacted the way I did. I know you know more about it, but so just first, thank you to your father, and then thank you to you for carrying on that work. It's been eye-opening, inspirational, and just so important. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I think you're not alone. You know, when he wrote The Color of Law, he tried really hard to get a publisher and he had a hard time. No publisher thought it would sell. And the publisher he did get printed 5,000 copies the first run.
Wow.
And it's since sold over 1 million. So it really hit a nerve. It came at a time that, you know, the country was ready to hear it, I guess. And it really has changed the conversation a lot about these issues.
I hope you guys just send a little thank you letter to the person who passed.
Right.
1 million copies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. What a testament to your father and the work.
Yeah.
Lee, if I could, only because the two books are linked so closely together, what inspired him? I mean, your daughter's like, what inspired him to get into what we would call, I guess, you know, traditional civil rights work? I mean, is it something that, you know, he grew up, yeah. How did he, you know, give you?
Yeah, well, you know, to speak for him, because he's not here with us tonight, his career, he's always been, you know, he, as a young man, was a organizer in the 60s with student movements against the Vietnam War and for civil rights. And he, you know, worked in Chicago to get ready for Martin Luther King to come and have a big march that didn't happen because he was assassinated before that. So he was a civil rights activist and organizer. And then when I was growing up, was a union organizer. And so this has like been in his blood. And then he became more of like a journalist, sort of academic-ish, working on school education policy. And he was really focused on racial disparities in education, the achievement, quote unquote, achievement gap between Black and white students. And there was a lot of talk then that the achievement gap was because of teacher quality, that teachers, you know, weren't performing well enough. And so that's how we got No Child Left Behind and all these testing requirements. And he did a lot of research about the achievement gap and found, you know, that kids were in racially segregated schools, and those segregated schools perform differently on tests and in outcomes. And he looked into it. Why are schools segregated? Well, their neighborhoods are segregated. And he around that time there was a Supreme Court decision where Chief Justice John Roberts struck down sort of a pretty trivial integration effort for schools in Louisville, and I think it was Louisville and Seattle had sort of, kind of trivial efforts to racially integrate their public schools. And the Supreme Court shut it down or struck it down, saying that the local government has no role to play in creating or advancing desegregation efforts because it didn't have a role to play in creating segregation to begin with. And it's right. And my dad, I think my dad had a similar reaction, but he thought, he remembered a story from Louisville where I think from the 40s or 50s, a Black family wanted to buy a home in a white neighborhood in Louisville and couldn't buy the home. So they had a friend who was white buy the home and sell it to them. And when folks found out about that, there was a mob, there was violence, the police stood by and allowed it to happen. And then the white owner who initially bought the home and sold it to this family was arrested, tried, and convicted of sedition. So all levels of the government was supporting and, maintaining the segregation of that neighborhood in the city that had this desegregation effort in the schools that Chief Justice John Roberts was saying that, the government had no role to play in segregating that community. So he put those dots together and started researching. 10, 12 years later, we have the color of law. So that's sort of how I understand it worked.
I want to make a comment, and then I want to talk about you growing up, with a dad like that in a family. This whole notion of oh my God, everything that has happened to the Black folks in particular, but people of color, it was written in the Three-Fifths Compromise, and it's gone on since then. I mean, it was enacted into law. So, I don't know if people don't. I mean, I guess they can't run away from that or get away from that, but
they try.
They try. And I have a very good friend who lived up in Oakland, up in the Trestle Glen area, and he was telling me when he was a kid, they had a covenant.
Oh yeah.
Covenant is that said, we're not selling to Black folks. We're not selling to Black. It was written. It wasn't like, it was a law.
Yeah.
And he grew up with that, and eventually, that law got changed. And he told me that, well, we ain't got the law now, but the law's still in our minds. So therefore, even though it ain't written down on what, we still not selling to Black folks. So this whole there's the issue of the law itself, and then what perpetuates in people's mind to
exactly
still say. So all of that's involved with this, and so I just want to, just old habits die hard. Whole thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let me speak to that. So, those covenants, they're called racially restrictive covenants. They're written into the deeds of homes, and they say exactly what you said. This home can never be owned or occupied by anyone other than a Caucasian person. That's mostly what they say. They vary sometimes in their language by who they're excluding explicitly, but always excluding African Americans and sometimes other groups too. These are written into deeds of homes that were required by the federal government to put on those deeds of homes in developments that the federal government subsidized to get built, which is how most of the suburbs and subdivisions in this country in the 50s were financed through federal subsidies. They couldn't get those federal subsidies unless the developers put these restrictive covenants on the deeds of the homes they built. So this idea that we now have that we've forgotten that history and we can think like, oh, this is just an accident that our neighborhoods are segregated. This was a very explicit government policy. And it's true, they're no longer legally enforceable. Those restrictive covenants, since the Fair Housing Act in 1968 and prior to that, a few decades prior to that, those became no longer legally enforceable. But not only do they stick in our minds, but they have real ongoing consequences. So the families that were allowed to buy those homes when the restrictive covenants were in place, the white families, they bought homes that were affordable. They bought homes in Trestle Glen for prices you wouldn't be able to imagine today. They were, affordable homes were affordable to middle class families when whites could buy them, but African Americans were explicitly denied, prohibited from buying them. So those families, those white families bought affordable homes in nice neighborhoods, thought it was just because of their own hard work that they could, afford those homes, but it was really written into policy to ensure that they were the only ones that could buy those homes. And then those homes accumulate in value over generations. And those families become wealthy with that accumulated value of the home. So even though those restrictive covenants are no longer in place, only families with that intergenerational wealth can now afford to buy in places like Trestle Glen or any, suburbs or subdivisions in this country. They cost, several $100,000, millions of dollars. So African American families who've been denied the opportunity to create intergenerational wealth through the home ownership experience that white families have had can't buy into those neighborhoods. So that's why even though those restrictive covenants are a result of laws that are no longer on the books, they have really long tails and long consequences. And unless we explicitly address those and take actions to intentionally reverse those consequences, they don't just go away on their own. The racial wealth gap, the home ownership gap keep expanding because we're not taking intentional steps to undo them and to remediate and fix them. So once those systems are in place, they just keep getting worse until we take intentional steps to fix it. And we haven't done that yet.
Coming back to that, that first hour was about the women who served in the military in that particular unit in World War II, and of course my father was also in World War II. But if I'm correct, and I remember when I first heard about this, uh, when they when they came home, they were forbidden to buy homes. They could not use the GI Bill and all the things that were set up for the white veterans. And so they were forbidden to do that by law. Again, this is all written as part of these covenants. And so that's why that comment came up. We loved our country, but it always loved us back. Now, I'm curious as to people don't like hearing, well, that was then. That was then. I know they like that. I know that. I mean, I hear that a lot. That was then, and that the laws change, and so. But as he points out in the color law, not only has consequences, a lot of this stuff is still, going on, right, in places. And and do you run across arguments of why are you bringing this up? I mean, I see that all the time. What come on, this is. Do you bump into that? Because
the classic, you're just causing division.
Right. Why go back to this? Aren't we over it? Yeah.
Leah, I gotta tell you this story. I was speaking to a group of women. I will never forget that. And she asked me, why you call yourself a Black American? I said, because I'm Black and I'm American. Why don't you just call yourself an American? Why are you trying to divide us? And I really I'm like Charity Adams. I'm holding my tongue, right? I was like, what do you mean? I said, when I thought America was about being determined who you say you are, or in a sense of Kuchitalia, as it says in Kwanzaa, right? Don't I get to determine? I said, I didn't say, but she was like, I'm dividing by calling myself, but I mean, it's just crazy. And you get that a lot whenever you bring up things like this. And I'm wondering, what's the reaction when you even bring up these issues that your book and your dad's book brings up? You get a lot of like, why are you doing this?
Not as much as you would expect, actually. I think there's things like that story I just told about the restrictive covenants and the federal government requiring them. I think when people hear the detail of that and then they understand how that's created such differences between races in this country, that we have to address those differences and remediate them, make them, reduce those disparities before we can ever be, colorblind or whatever people think we need to be to not be divided. We have to create equity so that we can all thrive, and we can't do that by ignoring how we got to be an inequitable country. It just doesn't work that way. And so I think when we frame it that way, people tend to get it. um, and and I have to say, a lot of people, who live the disparities, a lot of folks who are African American and whose families have had, generational challenges with home ownership and seen their neighborhoods changing, and they've read The Color of Law and Just Action, and they've come up to me and said, I always thought it was just my family's problem that we couldn't get it together, and I had no idea it went this deep, and it was so intentional and on purpose. And I think when people get that, they can see that it's not talking about, this isn't about dividing us. It's about actually bringing us together. It's the policies of the past that have divided us.
That's
And
right.
if we want to do anything about them, we have to start coming together and talking about them realistically. We can't, just put on rose-colored glasses and pretend it's all over, because we're still living with it.
So many people to me want to put on rose-colored glasses, and maybe they hear it better from you. They hear me, right? Because when I say it, and I say it in a very, I've learned, because I'm a '60s guy, right? I'm a civil rights guy. I mean, I've heard it from Malcolm X, H-Rap, I've heard them all. So the way I do it, I can go there. I can go to high C, but I just, matter of factly will say things like, this is. And I remember Ann, when I was speaking to this group of women, you remember when I went up there and spoke? She said, "You sound like you got a chip on your shoulder." I said, "Well, I don't know about that, but that doesn't change what I said." Yeah. And so she didn't like hearing it from me. Now, maybe if you said it, and that's why, in terms of the information doesn't change to me. Maybe they just don't want to hear it from certain people, right? Where you should be happy, LeBron James makes $1 million and Oprah and all of that. I mean, they give you everything in the world. But that doesn't mean there isn't work to be done. And I'm curious, having lived through a time where where there's a will, there's a way. There was a will.
Mm-hmm.
I think the issue in this, and let me just say this to me, and it's hard to take the politics out of this, because anytime I talk to folks about these issues, it becomes a left or a right or Republican or Democrat. I said, there's nothing to do with politics. Ain't nothing to do with politics. I don't care who did it. I don't care, who did it. We're looking at the issues. I try to focus on the issues and take it out of this, because the first thing they'll talk about, it was a Democrat, a Republican. That ain't got nothing to do with it. I don't care who did it. It's hard to take it out of these things that we talk about. I mean, you can't even say DEI now, and that becomes an issue. You can't say the buzzwords. So for me, anytime I get into this, I try to stay away from the words that send them, to high C or high F or whatever, and just focus directly on the issue that I'm talking about. Because to me, if it gets associated with red or blue or liberal or this or that, or the buzzword that I gotta explain, DI, or what's that other word? They get hung up on the word and not on the issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the history, which just is
and the history, right? Yeah. Well, the history they wanted when I was then, and you got to connect the dots for it. Lord, you got a big job, baby. Thank you.
Yeah. A smile says it all.
Because I always call this a marathon relay race for
Yeah.
freedom and equality, right? And people just don't know how deep this stuff goes. So jump into the book. That's a long preamble to talk about the things you'd like to see accomplished. Just go ahead, do your thing.
Well, okay. So the book is, trying to answer the question a lot of readers had after reading The Color of Law of what can we do now? Because, much like everything you're saying and a lot of other reasons, people think, well, what happened already happened. Segregation is so entrenched. It's impossible. Look at our country today and all of the divisions. How can we ever make any progress on these issues? Why should we even try? So we wanted to show that there is a lot of reasons we need to keep pushing on these issues. We have a moral responsibility because of the consequences of segregation. Just one is the different life expectancies of people who grow up in white suburban communities versus, predominantly African American inner city neighborhoods. Difference of decades in life expectancies. And that's just, as a country, we should not be content with that as a reality. So the moral responsibility, we also have a constitutional responsibility because the actions that the government took in creating segregation were in violation of the Constitution. And so we have a constitutional responsibility to remedy those violations and the impacts that they're still having. And to do that, we want to show that, so we have all these reasons to do it. It might seem impossible to do anything about it, but there's actually a lot that we can do and a lot that is happening. And we focus very explicitly on local policy and what local groups and advocates and organizers can do in their local governments and through local organizations and companies to begin to challenge segregation and reduce those disparities and to provide remedies for segregation to people in those communities. So we give some policy descriptions, try not to get too policy wonky on it, but want to explain that these ideas are not, out of the realm of understanding of regular, people in our communities. We can understand housing policy. It's not that difficult. And once we understand it, we can see what we can do in our own communities. And we give stories of communities throughout the country that are having success adopting some of these changes. So what we say... Sorry,
can
you
give a couple examples?
That's what I was going to say.
That would be helpful.
Sure, yeah. So I'll start with an example from the beginning of the book because we open up the book saying that to create these kinds of changes in our own communities, we need to build a newly activated civil rights movement made up of local groups in our own communities taking on segregation intentionally head on. And to do that, we need to build local groups in our own communities that are biracial, that have leadership, not only of Blacks, but also whites, leading these coalitions and being involved in advocating together for changes. And that first step is, can seem very daunting. A lot of people don't have a lot of cross-race relationships. When you grow up in a segregated community, you tend to see people who look like you when you go about your day-to-day business. And so the first step is building some relationships across racial lines and, between people from segregated neighborhoods of the same city. So we give a few stories of people, groups that have tried that. One, my favorite story from the book is from Chicago. An artist, she's a social justice artist, activist named Tanika Johnson, and she started a project called the Folded Map Project. So she took the map of Chicago, which is laid out in a perfect grid. So the same street has a north side, which is in the predominantly white side of Chicago, and a south side, which predominantly Black side of Chicago. So same street, same house numbers on that street, but on the north and south version of that street. So she folded the map in half. And when you fold it in half, the house numbers are the same. They sit on top of each other on the north and south side. And she called those houses map twins. And she took photographs. She's a photographer. She took photographs of those homes to show, this is, 535 North Armitage Street, and this is 535 South Armitage Street, for example. And to show how different those homes look and the context of those homes are very different. The neighborhoods they're in are very different, even though they're a couple miles apart because of segregation. So she was showing a visual representation of the segregation of Chicago. And she did some art exhibits, photographic exhibits of that. And then she introduced herself to the residents of the homes that she was photographing and told them about her project and asked if they wanted to meet their map twin. And many of them said yes. And to be part of this project, they agreed to meet their map twin and take their map twin on a tour of their neighborhood and tour their map twin's neighborhood. Now, these are people who, many of them had lived in Chicago their whole lives and had never been to the other side of town or known somebody who lived there. So they started having real conversations about what their neighborhood is like, how much their houses cost, and to really get a really felt like personal sense of the segregation and its impacts on people in their own city. These individuals, developed relationships, And they then went on to build block twin groups where they do some like neighborhood beautification efforts and sort of neighborhood improvement stuff. And they helped each other out during the pandemic. And they've gone on to sort of create community across the lines of segregation in Chicago. So
Fascinating.
it's
Wow.
a
Wow.
That
great.
might make a cool reality show, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's next on her agenda. She's doing so much. It's amazing. She's made a movie about the Folded Map Project.
Say her
And
name again.
Tanika Johnson,
Folded Map. Okay.
Folded Map Project.
Yeah. Tamika Johnson. All right. Thank you. That's a
And she's gone on to develop like a curriculum about segregation. So you can learn about segregation and then it's an experiential curriculum. So you go to a neighborhood you're not familiar with and you have some assignments. Find how long does it take you to find an organic apple? How many blocks do you have to go to find an ATM? Just to kind of see, to get people out of their comfort zones and understand what it's like in different neighborhoods. Really interesting, great stuff. And she's really building relationships to break down the walls of segregation so that we can then see that there's, a cost to us being separated on that level.
I just had a thought, Soul and Lady E. It's fascinating because these issues aren't dealt with, Black folks end up losing anyway because their neighborhoods end up being gentrified. So even
Right.
the neighborhoods that they live in, they end up losing.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to watch. East Oakland go to like where the Black folks.
Mhm.
San Francisco go from 14% to 3% because none of these issues were adequately dealt with at all. And folks had no more. And I gotta say this. I always laugh at this, but I shouldn't laugh. Um, when Black folks move, we know all the stories of Black folks moving into white neighborhoods, right? And the stories are like, the values going down, and the watch party comes out, and so on and so forth, and so you're not wanted here. And I mean, the movies are old. I go back to Raising in the Sun, which is my favorite family movie. It shows it right there. You're not wanted here, and don't you belong with your own people? But when white folks move into a Black neighborhood, we be like, "Hi, how you doing?"
Right.
we so I see how not dealing with this stuff ends up messing up Black folks anyway because they prices go what all the reasons that gentrification, so that just hit me to see these because you didn't take action.
Mhm.
It has consequences, particularly
Right.
for the population that was discriminated against in the first place. Does
Right,
that
exactly.
ring a bell, or does that make any
Yep.
sense?
Yeah, no, we have a whole section in the book about gentrification and policies that we can adopt to, what we say is to remedy segregation, we want to not only open up exclusive white communities to more diversity and, access to more people to be able to live in those exclusive communities, but also increase investments and resources in lower income segregated Black communities where government policy has deprived those areas of resources. So to remedy that, we want to increase resources. When that happens, usually suddenly that neighborhood seems nicer, white folks start moving in, prices rise, right? The longtime residents get pushed out. So we need to couple those policies to increase resources with anti-displacement policies. And we describe several of them. Another example from the book is from Cleveland that was seeing a big eviction rise in evictions for lower income tenants, which happens often in gentrifying communities because landlords suddenly see an opportunity to get higher paying tenants in. So they'll evict their lower paying tenants and start making more money now because their neighborhood's gentrifying and more people, people with higher incomes want to live there. So Cleveland saw this happening and adopted a right to counsel program, which Cleveland was one of the first cities to do it. Now several do. San Francisco has a right to counsel program, which provides a free attorney to low-income tenants who are facing an eviction. Usually when a tenant is facing an eviction, they get called to court. often they don't go because they don't have, representation or a way to defend themselves. Landlords usually have representation and lawyers. The courts usually rubber stamp those evictions, and tenants don't really have much recourse. But when they have an attorney, it reduces their evictions by huge amounts, keeps them from becoming homeless, keeps an eviction from getting on their record. So the city of Cleveland adopted this right to counsel program that said every low-income tenant facing an eviction has a free right to an attorney, and it funds that program through the Legal Aid Society that provides the attorneys, and the United Way helps to let those tenants know that they have a free right to an attorney so they can access that benefit, and it's really reduced the evictions for those low-income tenants. So this is something that can be done to help prevent displacement in gentrifying communities. It takes a local government usually funding the program and passing that law, which again is, all of these efforts take work and take advocacy, but they're not impossible. They're not rocket science, and they're not unheard of.
Another thing that I've run across is they want less. I get this from a lot of folks. I'm running a lot of circles. They want less government involvement. Fewer laws, less government. And somehow I'm saying, but it was the government laws that got us in this in the first place. But now you don't want to use any law to get us out of it, and it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, look,
exactly.
Come on, yeah. I mean, and it's funny, and affirmative action was a great example of this, right? I mean, you get put behind because of the laws, but when you come up with something to change it, well, then somehow it becomes reverse discrimination and racism and all this. You get all this stuff, and I applaud, anybody who just like keeps their literally, and I mean this, keeps their eyes on the prize. And you listen, but you keep moving forward. You listen, but you keep moving forward. You listen, you keep coming forward, and that can be difficult at times, and which is why folks, you got to support these efforts. You got to support these efforts, and don't get. I call it being fooled by well, now we ain't got to do nothing right now before, but we got this because you did something in the first place,
right?
And, and I'm thinking really of you and people like Brian Stevenson, people who are, I mean, the buzzword is social justice, right? But it's really about people, about making things right for people, and just yeah, wow.
Yeah, I know. I research and I write and I speak about this, but there are a lot of people doing the actual work, and which is a lot harder than what I do. And it seems a lot harder now than it was a few months ago, with what we have coming.
Yeah.
But I don't see what other choice we have unless we're going to roll over and accept this. I think we have to keep fighting. And I would say this is, what I'm sort of been like peddling hope around this issue over the last couple of years, because I do think it's important that we keep our eyes on the prize and our, thoughts and attention on the fact that people are working on this all over the country in, local efforts. So you don't hear about it the way you do about, national politics. But there's, efforts on the city level. I've been all over the country, the South, the Midwest, Northeast, the West. People are working on these issues and having success. And I think it's important to remember that, because we can be kind of bolstered by the fact that there's other people out there doing this. And we have to keep trying. We have to keep working on it. The alternative is just, I'm not willing to accept it, I guess.
So
I heard you mentioned, you're going all to the South and to the Midwest and all over the country. I'd have to ask you about the beautiful Bay Area that we live in.
Yeah.
Because that was one, I grew up here. I love the Bay Area. We all love the Bay. But after I read your dad's book, I'll never look at the Bay Area the same way again.
Yeah.
I grew up in Contra Costa County, which even as a kid, I could smell old racism in Contra Costa County. Okay.
Mhm.
I hey, I like Tresselgan. That's a nice neighborhood. I like San Leandro, Castro Valley. I like Mill Valley. I really love Marin. I always notice there's just not a lot of people like me there. And I guess maybe black people don't like Marin. I don't know. And then I read that book.
Mhm.
And no, it has nothing to do with we don't like it. So it's like one of those things you see and you can't unsee. I'm just wondering if about the Bay Area specifically, because this is a place, all that we are. I wonder, as much as we're into social justice and movements, and we'll protest at the drop of a dime. Has the Bay really wrapped their head around this? And is there anything happening on local level here in the Bay Area that you know of?
Yeah, there is a lot happening here. I wouldn't say that the Bay has figured it out better than other places. Um, well, I'll say that the affordable housing crisis that now is affecting the whole country and has, affected the Bay Area for a lot longer is making people wake up to really looking at how we got into this affordable housing crisis. And one of the reasons we have an affordable housing crisis is that we haven't built enough housing over decades. One of the reasons we haven't built enough housing for people is because of exclusionary zoning policies to ensure that white neighborhoods stayed white. If you couldn't build smaller homes, apartment buildings in suburbs, then, you ensure that only the wealthiest families can afford to live in that area. So those zoning policies have gotten us where we are today. So the Bay and California have been addressing that better than, a lot of places in the country because we've been dealing with this for longer. And when we do it well, we look at this affordable housing crisis, our lack of housing in general for everybody, and connect the dots to segregation and racially explicit, discriminatory policy. And we try to solve all of those things together.
Mm-hmm.
So there are efforts to do that around the state and in the Bay Area. And you mentioned a few communities. Marin, I have spoken several times to different groups in Marin City, which is the one Black enclave in Marin.
Yep.
And they're fighting putting more affordable housing in their neighborhood because it is the only area of Marin County that has affordable housing almost. And so they're fighting to have the county place affordable housing in other parts of the city as well, or of the county. And Marin has we write about Marin County as an example of a place that has addressed this restrictive covenant issue. We think to the best way they can. A lot of local groups, they become aware of the restrictive covenant history in their city, in their neighborhoods, the deeds on the homes. And they, to address it, they want to erase the covenant. So they pass laws or ordinances to strike those from the public record.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand the sentiment behind that. We don't want that. I wouldn't want that on the deed of my house. But when you strike it from the public record completely, you also strike the knowledge of the history and why our neighborhoods look the way they do. If we don't have that written in black and white, it's easier to deny that, policy,
in the first place.
Yeah, how we got here to begin with. So while I can see why you'd want to strike them, we advocate for not doing that. So Marin has instead passed an ordinance where they staple a statement on top of that covenant in the deed saying, we don't adhere to the values reflected in this covenant, but it's still on the public record. And then a lot of communities are using that knowledge of those restrictive covenants. They're, documenting them, inventorying them, mapping them as a way to start to organize support for efforts to challenge segregation. Because again, it's understanding that history that oftentimes gets people activated to do something differently today.
Wow. This has been a fascinating, and because it's just an eye opener. I mean, this, is there, I don't want to keep it too much long. Is there anything else you want to, by the way, this is not the last time we're going to be here. Okay. We got to keep, but is there anything else you want to get in, before we let you go tonight, the examples you have given have been wonderful. The lady in Chicago, specific talk about the Bay Area. Is there anything else you want to?
Oh, there's so many. I think there's so many examples I could give. I could, start down another rabbit hole about another policy and how we can change it, but I won't subject you to that. But I'll just say that there, to leave you with the thought that there's so much we can do. There were so many pieces and players that went into creating segregation. There's just as many that go into undoing it and challenging it. So every community can start somewhere. Every group, every neighborhood association can just start looking at the issues in their community and start with one of them. Start by, supporting a community land trust or supporting a right to counsel program. Or, there's so many ways to get started. Start by supporting a down payment assistance program for African American homebuyers in your city. So, I don't want folks to hear this and be overwhelmed that there's, too much to do or it's too complicated. We can start anywhere and any piece of it matters. And that's how we're going to start to make progress.
Leah, can you remind our listeners name of your book and where they can get it?
Yeah, it's Just Action, How to Challenge Segregation Enacted Under the Color of Law. It's sold wherever books are sold. The paperback comes out in March. It's also on Audible. Yeah, so you can find it anywhere.
I gotta read. I gotta start reading. A little bit at a time.
And you can find out more on, we have a website, justactionbook.org.
We have the young people we teach. We have what we call 4 rules for living. We don't believe in RIP. We believe in LIP, but we everything we do, we teach, we call lessons of living. And one of the rules is the rule for change. And that rule is, if you want things to change, change begins with you. And I always call it the Harriet Tubman rule. Because Harriet, okay, I want to do something about slavery. So all I got is me. I'm going down there and I'm bringing out folks. You ain't one. Look, you ain't got to go with me. I ain't got no posse, but I'm going. And just your dad, yourself, those people who have decided, I'm gonna make change. I'm gonna make every effort I can is a perfect example of what we try to get to our young people. You see an issue that needs to be dealt with, you do it. And this radio show and the work we've done with young people is something that we saw the need to be changed when we did it. So much love to you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. I'm already getting calls. Can she come speak to us? I'm getting texts. Can she come speak to us? Three Soldiers has legs. So I'm
All right, we'll reach out. Yeah, I'd love to.
I hope your father's doing well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, tell him, yes, I got to meet him. He's amazing. Lady E, we're going to turn it over to you.
Well, Dr. Marshall, I think you wrapped it up when you said that you don't have a posse. There's something to do. If you know what to do, then let's be about getting it done. We celebrated 6888 and the message that it brings, and then we have just action, the color of law, and what things can be done to help turn things around. These are things that we've heard for years and years, things that have been withheld for years and years. When I was a child, I was expecting it to be different as my hair turned gray. And it's silver now, and it's still the same. Things continue to be hidden, withheld, disparities show up all the time. But like our guest says, there are many people working to bring about change. And we just need to continue to work, trust, and look for that change. We're human beings. Separations don't do anything but create more destruction, disaster. What is it going to take and how long is it going to take? It's been years. When are we going to turn things around? And so for those who are out there fighting, writing and fighting and opening the eyes so people can see unapologetically with strength and courage and determination to stop this nonsense and turn it around. This is 2025. And I know administration is questionable.
Very.
But he who holds us in the palm of his hands, and those of us who are down here working, fighting, trying to make a difference, don't give up, don't stop. Let's continue that work. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your work. Thank you. Happy New Year. And next time he brings you on, we're looking forward to hearing from
you. Thank you, Lady E. Lady, I don't know if you've seen the film 6888.
Not yet.
No, let me tell you something. You pretty inspired now. You gonna see that film? Look, you could be like, man, you see what them women did? Look. That's a perfect look. That's my new inspiration right there. Watching those women and what they did, and that effort is timeless. Effort is timeless. Only you can give us effort. So thank you, like Lady said, Malcolm. Also, thank you so much for joining us this evening on Street Soldiers, and we'll see you down the line. Keep it up. We got your back.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good night.
Take care. Good night.